and welcome to another session of India Employer Forum Samvaad, a dialogue series where we bring together leaders to explore and discuss real world challenges, opportunities, and the fast changing work environment. A quick introduction: I'm Dhiren Makhija, Senior Vice President at Teamly Services Limited, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's conversation, a topic close to quite a few of our hearts, which is engaging and empowering shop associates. For all of you who are joining in for the first time, a little bit about India Employer Forum, IEF, as we know it. It's a non-profit community that primarily discusses, understands, and documents the varied aspects of employment, employability, and the ease of doing business, especially as we head towards India at 100. That's 100 years of our independence, right? Team Leaser's role primarily out of here is more as a knowledge partner, where we provide our expertise, research, insights, and we support IEF's initiatives in the form of events, webinars, and more. So, to set the context for today's discussion, India's journey in the electric mobility started back in the early 2000s, right? Uh, I'm sure most of us remember the Reva car back then, but it did not really see great success primarily because of its high cost, lack of infrastructure, especially on the charging piece, and the adoption had its own challenges. However, this is picking up a lot of speed, which is a reflection of not only our technological progress, but also the country's growing commitment towards sustainability. So, just to help you with some numbers, right? Back in 2020, electric vehicles formed less than 1% of our total sales. Uh, that's around 1,20,000 of the 15 million plus vehicles which were sold. But as of last year, as per a Niti Aayog report, we have sold close to about 2 million of the 26 million vehicles, which is about 7.5%, right? And we have a target of achieving fourfold in the next 5 years. That's uh, that's some ambitious and exciting targets for ourselves. The government has played a very, very pivotal role in this transformation with multiple initiatives. For example, your PLI scheme for your automobile and auto components, which has been very critical. They've also had schemes like your FAME, which is your faster adoption of mobility in electric and hybrid vehicles, which has seen thousands of crores of investment in charging infrastructure and your fleet electrification. This has sparked innovation and created new jobs across the sector. While the government has also set a very ambitious vision of achieving a net zero emission by 2070, which can be achieved primarily by policy reforms, infrastructure development, national commitment, I think the most important key is going to be transformation with respect to our workforce that primarily blends our traditional manufacturing know how with our digital, green, and engineering skill sets. So, keeping this in mind, I would love to introduce our speaker for today. That's Nidhi Prasad. She's primarily a VP HR and labor compliance at Ather Energy. If I could just take a minute to introduce you, Nidhi, with over 2 decades of experience in building high performance, customer centric organizations, Nidhi is a seasoned HR leader with a strong background in IR and HR practices. She's held leadership roles at multiple organizations like GE Healthcare, Tata Power Solar, HAL, and more. And today she's playing a very pivotal role with respect to setting the company's greenfield factory in Hosur and the culture grounds up. So, Nidhi, thank you again for being a part of this whole conversation.
Thank you, Rain, for the introduction.
Perfect. So, Nidhi, I'm going to start off with one of the most fundamental questions that all our viewers would like to actually understand. I'm sure you work with multiple teams while setting up the new plant in Hosur, and we all know that the culture is set right from the word go. So, what were the specific practices or rituals that you actually formulated to ensure that this workforce has the sense of ownership, accountability, and primarily has the drive to deliver towards what we are targeting?
So when we started, building Hosur factory specifically, it was 2019. It was very much the COVID era, and if you would remember, in the COVID period, there was a lot of government notifications where people were unable to go and attend the colleges,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a lot of directions. Like even without practicals, you will have to have the people get the pass marks and thought, and that was the time period where we were in a situation where we had to start the factory, and we had to start the factory with the trained resources. And
Mm-hmm.
we were very much cognizant of the fact that you do not have people with the practical aspect or the practical knowledge of things because of the situation of the pandemic. So
Mm-hmm.
what we thought was, from a strategy perspective, we started looking for competence in people, which is more about curiosity. Are they the real problem solvers? Have they the hunger to learn more? Understand, more like first principle thinker, they're more like a solution rather than asking. So we interviewed people on those criteria. We also knew that, like going to a traditional OEM, we might get experienced resources, but EV itself would be a new thing for us. And
Mm-hmm.
Ather as such would, has started right from campus. Like our founders itself started the company when they were in college itself as an incubation center. So we thought, again, we will go back to campuses, and we went back to the campuses of ITI colleges, and we hired people more from that sort of a mindset. They were
Mm-hmm.
more like problem solvers for us. And then we had our own dojo setup. So where before putting the people on the line, there was a lot of nervousness because they had not actually worked on the machines, which you
Mm-hmm.
would have typically expected people to know when they have passed a qualification of sorts. They were mostly theory, and we all know how the ITI colleges in India are. So
Mm-hmm.
post that, we started training them. They had all hands-on trainings on dexterity, safety dojo, what are the quality dojos. So everything was built bottoms up, just like our product.
Mm-hmm.
And before they went into the line, what we also thought, we had some trained resources with us. They became their coaches and mentors, so it helped, and they were the ones who were imparting the training also in the local language.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to relate, like where I will make the mistake in the shop floor of sort. So
Mm-hmm.
we started with a small group of people who had a lot of ownership and accountability, and it spread. That culture is how we built, and it kept on moving forward from there. So that was one thing. The second thing is, like, there is no school which will teach you, ownership or accountability. It is what you see.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't put, like, this is what is our values and all. People are able to demonstrate it. So for, like, just a recent example where we saw a person in the quality department was able to notice a pattern, and then the company took action around that and saved a lot of money for us.
Mm-hmm.
Now the person was able to connect the dots, like what the work is having an impact on the larger goal. So
Mm-hmm.
that sort of a thing we cannot build or get it done through a classroom training. It's more about observing what people are seeing and feeling about it. So that comes by the culture of the organization. So we don't give big lectures, but we show it in the action. The entire Hosur, if you see, we have a circles, is a unique initiatives which we have launched, where we have circles for culture, circles for safety, circles for Kaizen. So all these people are very passionate people, group of mini communities. They come together, they have a certain budget, so they
Mm-hmm.
solve for the problem, so that before the problem becomes a big thing where you will need a HR intervention or a plant team's intervention, they solve for it and move forward. So it is more like go getters for yourself.
Nidhi, you use some fabulous terms which I know the rest of the conversation will revolve around, be it with respect to the training aspect that you focused on or your mentor and buddy system. So I'm going to start off with the very first one. With respect to training, right? More often than not, there's a lot of pressure as soon as a person comes in. You try to get him to be hands on and hit the ground running, right? How does Ather actually approach this, especially since technology could be relatively new, or as you said, during COVID time, you really didn't have people who had an hands on experience. So, do you have a structured approach towards this? Is it a program? How do you handle them and the likes? That would be great to hear.
What we do is, before an associate is like onboarded, during even like from the campus, we do a lot of engagement initiatives with them. That could be like a small video we send to them about safety, which talks about general safety at a factory.
Mhm.
We speak to the parents, we get their earlier campus hires to go there, so they know exactly how it feels like working at Ather.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and we have a graduation sort of a ceremony once people have completed 2 years' time, where we call the parents, we make them see. And, so basically, we know that to attract someone in EV is a challenge, and we start from the building, right? So, when the parents come in, they see the pride, like, how difficult it was for them to get their kids at that stage where they are. So,
Mhm.
that helps us to build that connect. The second
Got it.
aspect, what happens is, in the dojo setup which we have a lot of simulation exercises, and in
Mhm.
that people are given hands-on training for a week or so. We do not push people that you are supposed to perform. We allow them to observe, to learn, make mistakes, and move forward. So there is no penalty for that. So
Got
that
it.
gives a lot of courage. And since these trainings are done by their own seniors, like who are seniors at Ather, it helps them to create that relatability. The
Got
second
it.
thing is, like, we have a very robust skilling mapping which we have done at all the stations. So
Mhm.
people know that at this particular skill, if I do and I move to this station, then I acquire few more skills and I move to the next station. So there is a lot of transparency there. It is not like everybody wants to work in end of quality line, or like, so they know what is the career path, how do they move forward there. So a lot of transparency, and having these trainings and repeat trainings in fixed interval of times has helped us build that learning culture.
I'm going to pick up on the career path piece that you said, because most of them who now joined, right, they stayed because they have clear visibility and basically a vision on how they see themselves contributing to the company and not just another employee there. So, at the time of onboarding, how do you go about educating the person on what his growth could be? Are there steps that you do which is different from the industry or the likes? Would love to hear that piece.
So basically, what we talk to them is, they have like four stations, like from a
Mhm.
skilling perspective, they move at four different levels.
Mhm.
And for each of the movement, we have a very clear defined path, like for this many hours of training, this many certification you will have to do. So, how are you line ready? So, for moving from one station to another, you need to train some people also,
Got
and
it.
that sort of a line ready certification is what we do, so people know ki it is not like it is at a random shift in charges discretion where I will be placed. They know that this is how I will have to move in the career journey. We also have a system of zone leaders where one among them would manage this show of how the line has to be managed. So they
Mhm.
are accountable for the quality piece, the material inflow. They are responsible for particular small zones. So each of the lines have been divided into zones. And believe in a culture where we talk about collective ownership, or more like a collaboration. So you don't get individual sort of a reward. You will get only when your line gets it or your particular zone gets it. So it's more like a rolling trophy of sorts. So that encourages them right from the beginning that I cannot be successful alone. So I will not allow a fault to pass just because the other person might get a banging from the manager of sorts. So they know that for them to get it for the zone, they have to ensure that all of them are at a particular speed, at a particular rhythm. So line
Mhm.
has to move at a rhythm, and that is what we try to inculcate. So if you see at Ather, we hardly have individual rewards. We have individual rewards for demonstrating something for a task sort of a thing, but most
Mhm.
of the safety rewards, the kaizen, all are more from a line or a collaboration for a particular zone. So that's how we do it.
I think that actually builds in a lot of teamwork as such, which in turn could see much better results than an individual contributor, right? Very interesting. So these initiatives that people actually pick up, I think you did highlight about someone who came up and helped solve a problem. So just wanted to understand, do you all have a structure of rewarding these initiatives, or how do you go about promoting this culture of ownership in the form of initiatives across your shop floor associates?
Yeah, so we also have this, when we made this reward philosophy, what should be, we took a lot of inputs from not our people, our HR team, but more from the associates. How would they like to be
Nice.
rewarded? What
Got it.
behaviors is it that they value? So it was very much a grounds up approach, and most of our rewards, as I told you, is not monetary.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, they know that it is more about recognition which they value. It's the
Mm-hmm.
certificate which they will value rather than, or the shield, which is a common shield. So we
Mm-hmm.
took a lot of inputs from the associates itself, like what are the behaviors you feel are the ones which would take you to the next level or which should be recognized. Be it
Got
a
it.
quality issue, a problem, what we individually we have rewarded. There are a couple of individual rewards. This is more like if they have done a significant work which was above and beyond. Like if they
Mm-hmm.
have done something which creates an impact to the larger shop floor itself. So
Got it.
those are individual rewards which are given at the discretion of the plant manager, which was not part of their duty as such. If there is a someone in the, like, we rewarded one person, there was a bus accident and
Mm-hmm.
he volunteered and got down. It was more like being the human there. So that sort of an individual rewards is what we give or we appreciate, and that's what we did, which had nothing to do with Ather as such in the shop floor environment. So the
Got it.
person went above and beyond and was a human there. So that was recognized in the all hands.
No, I think it's people like this which actually make a difference in the whole workspace, right? So kudos to him for actually stepping up out there. So Nidhi, you mentioned this concept of a buddy and a mentor. Personally, I've actually been reading a lot about this, and I know that these two actually have two different connotations. A buddy would be completely different from a mentor, right? So just want to understand from an Ether Energy perspective, do you all have a buddy system, a mentor system? And if yes, how do you go about deploying it? And what are the exciting results that you've seen? That would be nice to hear.
From a buddy system, what we do is at the specifically in the shop floor, we identify one person who is typically from their campus
Mm-hmm.
or somebody who is the one who has taken these trainings for that particular zone. So
Mm-hmm.
that person becomes the buddy and helps the person assimilate better in the organization. Like
Got
if
it.
you see in a shop floor, you will typically expect people not to have used tobacco, or also, like, be a little more cognizant of the hygiene, have the basic 5S in place. So
Mm-hmm.
these things, if it is told by the shop floor manager, it is on the walls. But if they relate to somebody who is there with them, who has grown or seen the same journey, so that sort of a mapping we do, and we make these people as the buddy for them. From a mentoring perspective, we have a very specific mentoring program which is more for zone leaders. Zone
Okay.
leaders would be like responsible, line is divided into say 4 5 zones, and
Mm-hmm.
these zone leaders undergo a specific mentoring program which is done by the shift in charges, where they know ki what are the SQDC which they have to follow, what are the safety instructions they have to give, what are the quality things they have to do. We have also done couple of initiatives like how does a female zone leader versus a male zone leader are able to see the line,
Got
and
it.
have specific interventions planned for their effectiveness to increase.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of a mentoring session, we work closely with the talent management team and get those things incorporated. But buddies mostly people who have grown through along with them, had a very similar background, so that they're able to relate to.
Kudos to all of you because planning this and ensuring that they align with the right buddy itself takes a lot of effort from the team. And as they say, it's the first 3 months primarily that defines whether a person's really going to stay around or no. And I think y'all have really cracked that code over there. So full marks out of there. So now when we have someone who's onboarded, we've gone through his learning process, we've understood how he's linked with a buddy and a mentor. I think the next key point would be is how is there a transparent conversation between the leaders and the shop floor and the associates and to ensure that they actually deliver the best from their end.
Yeah, so for that, what we do is we focus more on a communication framework. So
Mhm.
we feel that the larger purpose has to be broken down. For a shop floor employee, it becomes very easy because you know this many number of scooters or two-wheelers you will have to roll out. But
Mhm.
beyond that, like what are the safety features? How is your job? Like if you have not tightened a screw, what sort of a safety risk it can create to the two-wheeler person or the family on the road? Those sort of lot of communications we do, the impact of their work. So the pure joy happens when they see the two-wheeler, Ather two-wheeler on the road, and they feel very happy. So during the pandemic, we had a lot of associates because we didn't have so much of production at that point of time. We sent
Mhm.
them to the field who were trying to understand from the customers, like, what they didn't like in the scooter. So we took their feedback. So there is a lot of constant engagement with them. So there are a lot of all-hand meetings where they talk about what is the larger context, how is their role going to impact. Like
Mhm.
there is a festive, we talk about, for them to be present, because
Mhm.
if we understand that there is things in the family and they have to go, but we also do a lot of education sessions that if everybody goes on leave at the same time, we won't be able to meet the targets. So all such things happens by having a very robust communication system.
Mhm.
We reward the zones where you have less absenteeism. So a
Mhm.
lot of things like that we do, so that there's a lot of communication around that. Then we have the regular grievance redressal system, where there are QR codes and people can raise the category of grievance, be it a canteen food or, and those circles would take care of it.
So, if in case I'm to ask a few questions relatively more specific to the EV industry now, I think speed, innovation, safety are critical parameters that need to coexist, right? Especially between the engineers, technicians, and the ones who are operating out over there. So, how does your role or the HR team's role play a critical role here to ensure that the results delivered are maximum at the best?
I would say it is not about our role. Most of the people, whether they are joining from campus in colleges, be it from a different role, if they're in the engineering department versus the manufacturing department or in the software department, they all are part of the Gen Z. And they have to relate to the larger purpose of the organization. The needs
Mhm.
might be different because they belong to different cohorts. That's the reality.
Right.
But how do we instill that purpose of their existence in the organization? That helps. So we believe that the shop floor associates have to see things to believe, because everything has to be very visual. So we have like initiatives around, they use the recyclable pallets, so they
Mhm.
know that you're contributing like that. So
Mhm.
how, and also when the engineer is designing, they take the inputs. So it is more about the lived experience. Like you can design something very good in the engineering sort of a setup, but is it ready for the manufacturing team to develop or to make it in that fashion? So there are a lot of swim lane interactions in which the inputs of the not only the shift in charges of manufacturing, but even associates are taken. So
Mhm.
that helps to build the bridge. So while the designer is designing, but he's also understanding the lived experience on how the ergonomics is going to impact. How is it that, whether what position the person would be able to do, how does the line move? So there is a lot of interaction and nothing is done like outside. You will have the entire engineering team in the shop floor when we are launching the new product. So there is
Sure.
no formal handshake of sorts. So it's in the continuous flow is where we build.
I think the gap between the white collar and blue collar would be bridged basically via transparent conversation and the likes. And I'm sure conflict management is handled extremely well from their end as such, right? So, with respect to the team, with the growth perspective again, just going to touch upon that again. Um, Today, you have people who are seeing EV as a very, very exciting industry. But 5 years back, you would have had your own challenges of actually motivating people to get them on and things like that. So, how is your take on how it was a few years back and where we are now? And how do you foresee it going over the next 5 to 7 years?
Okay, so if you see the evolution of automobiles itself, primary producers were US, UK, some portions of France, and like there was no China, there was no Korea, and then like they primarily dominated the entire market. Then came another like till 2019, 2020, where you see the rise of the Japans and the Korea and all, but primarily it was mostly still into the ice age, I would say, the
Mhm.
internal combustion engine. But it is only from 2019 when you see the likes of Tesla and all, where there is a lot of focus back on EV.
Mhm.
So from 2019 to 2025 itself is, I would say, a 6 year period about, and in around 2.5 years, we should just subtract for pandemic. So it's a
Mhm.
very, very nascent industry, I would say. So there is lot of opportunity to experiment, to learn, and that sort of a people are the ones who got attracted to Ather also,
Mm-hmm.
who were problem solvers, who wanted to build something from grounds up. So from an evolution perspective, I feel EV, there's lot of scope more to do. Like,
Right.
from 2040, we don't say that we had a EV. EVs are like hardly 2 to 3 years, I would say.
And as you rightly said, a lot of them would be Gen Z, is relatively new and the likes. So I
Hmm.
think that's where a little bit of, I mean, a question that comes to mind is primarily how do we balance accountability with the empowerment that these associates are trusted with? So how do you go about that piece?
So we strongly believe that people have to be trusted. So it is not about you prove your ability and then we start trusting you. We trust you by default. So
Mhm.
that's how our culture collective is. Like, while we might be of a different view, different background, and even if you see our tasks, they are all different blocks. They are not of the same size or. So what we try to tell is like it's all about the collective coming together. So we start with the trust, and then we start building on it, and then people also understand accountability. They see it, their managers living it day in and day out, people owning up the mistakes if they have done. So that builds the confidence on them, and we primarily believe that people are good people and they have accountability and they want to prove to the world, that they are doing something. So including the step up program where we call their parents, like it's a graduation program for us after 2.5 years of the associates being with us, where the parents come and they have so many stories to tell, how they feel pride when they see the ether scooter in their village of sorts. So that itself creates that sort of a bonding, and that bonding helps to build accountability. So they relate with a much larger picture of doing something for the country, where you have like more less carbon and all. So if they're able to relate to a bigger picture, that's where the accountability comes in. No
Right.
classroom can teach you any accountability per se.
No, I think as you rightly called out, the sense of ownership with respect to contributing to the environment, apart from just the company, also plays a critical role. I think that brings me down to one of my last questions that I had, which is as the industry aims to be future ready and inclusive, right? Engagement must definitely go beyond productivity. So, as an organization which primarily is spearheading or is one of the pioneers with respect to EV, what's your take on how do you integrate the purpose of sustainability, green innovation, and national progress into the engagement strategies so that these associates feel a part of something larger than just the assembly line?
So basically what we do is like we primarily believe that seeing is what would make the difference. So
Mm-hmm.
for us, like while other organizations started all this green materials and everything, we had the opportunity, while they were driving it mostly as a change initiative, we had
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity to build it up. So because we had nothing to to rely back on or to change, because we are as such a very nascent sort of an organization itself, so that helped. So most of our initiatives are built on that. Like, while there are a lot of initiatives where the work, all these communities which I mentioned earlier, the circles, they go, they do the plantation drive, blood donation camps and all. But mostly, like even in the factory, if you see, we have started doing the green material. So when we talked about using green material, it's more like using not the first time usage. So
Mm-hmm.
what are the scopes where it can be done? So we get a lot of ideas from the associates to do it. Like our emissions, most of our emissions are like more like certified. So it helps us to have those meter readings. All these things help, like all each small steps which the associates are able to see where we are contributing to the environment. We have our solar panels on the shop floor in the factory, so they see that that we are contributing on 20% of our entire power consumption comes from the solar panels which we have. So they are
Wow.
able to see that, rather than we just talk about energy, let's do something sustainable. We use reusable pallets for the shop floor. Almost 80% of our packaging is also reusable. We follow around 90% of the water which we generate is again reused, so
Mm-hmm.
that helps. So, and even the waste which we generate, we give it to recyclers. So we are having a like a zero landfill philosophy. So at
Mhm.
the associate level itself, there is a lot of connections which they are able to make. So that helps drive the culture. And then these initiatives are all done by the associates, like the day-to-day operations of it. So we have safety stewards who are taking the meter reading, who are telling what is the consumption pattern and things like that. So there is a lot of like people want to be part of it, want to contribute there. So those things actually help us build the sustainable and an inclusive sort of a environment, I would say.
Nidhi, I'd love to continue the discussion for a much longer time, but I think you've already given us a lot of your time. Thank you so much. And I would love to thank Ather for being one of the pioneers with respect to ensuring a net zero emission that we all are targeting by 2070. And it was great to hear your views on how you all focus primarily on the learning curve to start off with, your buddy and mentor system, the transparency that the team actually has. And as you said, seeing is believing, right? When the people actually see how they are contributing directly, I think it doesn't get any better than that. So thanks a lot again for taking the time out, and would love to connect with you again.
Thank you, Devan. Thank you so much for your time. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Nidhi.